Baghdad was once the brightest jewel in the crown of human civilization. For 500 years, it stood as a city unlike any other on earth. A city of marble mosques and golden domes. A city where scholars debated beneath shaded courtyards. A city where merchants traded silk and spices from every corner of the known world. Travelers called it the City of Peace. Poets said its streets shimmered with knowledge. Historians said no city on earth could rival its beauty or power. At its heart stood the House of Wisdom, the greatest library the world had ever known. Inside its walls were millions of manuscripts. Ancient Greek philosophy, Persian science, Indian mathematics, Arabic poetry, medical texts that had saved countless lives. It was here that algebra was refined, here that astronomy flourished, here that the foundations of modern medicine were laid. Baghdad was not just a city, it was the mind of the world. And in the year 1258, that mind was about to be destroyed. Far to the east, beyond deserts and frozen steppes, a different power was rising. The Mongols. They were not builders of cities. They were destroyers of worlds. For decades, they had swept across Asia like a living storm. From China to Central Asia, from Persia to the Caucasus, nothing could stop them. They burned cities to the ground. They slaughtered entire populations. They stacked human skulls into towers as warnings to others. Their empire was built on terror. And at their head rode Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan. Unlike his grandfather, Hulagu was not driven only by conquest. He was driven by annihilation. His mission was simple: destroy every rival power in the Islamic world, erase all resistance, crush any city that dared defy Mongol authority. Baghdad stood at the top of his list. Hulagu sent messengers to the Abbasid Caliph, al-Mustasim. Their message was short: surrender your city, dismantle your walls, and submit to Mongol rule, or Baghdad will be wiped from the face of the earth. The Caliph laughed. He believed his city was untouchable. Baghdad had walls over 40 feet high. It had moats. It had tens of thousands of soldiers. And above all, he believed God would protect him. He sent Hulagu a mocking reply. He did not understand that the Mongols did not negotiate. In the winter of 1258, Hulagu Khan began his march. More than 150,000 Mongol soldiers moved across the plains of Mesopotamia. They brought siege engines never before seen in the region. Massive catapults capable of hurling boulders the size of wagons. Chinese engineers skilled in explosives. Heavy cavalry that moved like a thunderstorm. Villages fell in hours. Towns were erased in days. Survivors fled toward Baghdad in terror, telling stories of cities burned and people slaughtered. Inside Baghdad, panic spread. The Caliph hesitated. He delayed. He argued with his advisors. Some urged surrender. Others urged resistance. The Caliph chose pride. He ordered his army to prepare for battle, but his army was weak. Many soldiers had never seen combat. Their weapons were old. Their morale was low. Worst of all, the Caliph refused to mobilize his full force. He believed the Mongols would retreat. They never did. On January 29, 1258, the Mongol army arrived. They encircled Baghdad completely. No one in, no one out. The Tigris River glittered beneath their banners. The city's gates were sealed. The air grew heavy with fear. Mongol engineers began constructing siege towers and catapults. The Caliph sent a small army to confront them outside the walls. It was a disaster. The Mongols crushed them in a single day. Survivors fled back into the city in terror. On February 5th, the bombardment began. The sky darkened with stones and fire. Boulders smashed into towers, collapsing them in clouds of dust and screams. Flaming projectiles crashed into rooftops, setting entire neighborhoods ablaze. People ran through the streets in panic. Mothers clutched their children. Men screamed prayers to the sky. The wounded bled out in alleyways. Day and night, the assault continued. The walls began to crumble. By February 10th, a massive breach opened in the eastern wall. The Mongols surged forward. They poured into the city like a flood of death. What followed was not a battle. It was an extermination. Mongol warriors rode through the streets, cutting down anyone they saw. Men were beheaded where they stood. Women were dragged from their homes. Children were thrown into fires or trampled beneath horses. Families were slaughtered together in their own doorways. The screams were endless. For 7 days and 7 nights, Baghdad burned. Entire districts were reduced to ash. Mosques were desecrated. Hospitals were destroyed. Markets were looted and set on fire. The streets became rivers of blood. Bodies were piled so high that soldiers had to climb over them. The House of Wisdom was stormed. Scholars were dragged out and executed. Books were ripped from shelves and thrown into the Tigris. So many manuscripts were dumped into the river that the water turned black with ink. The knowledge of centuries was erased in a single week. The Caliph finally surrendered. He emerged from his palace in humiliation. He begged Hulagu Khan for mercy. Hulagu did not grant it. The Caliph was wrapped in a carpet, so his royal blood would not touch the ground. Then Mongol horses trampled him to death. His sons were executed. His court was slaughtered. The Abbasid Caliphate, which had ruled for over 500 years, ended in blood. By the time the Mongols left Baghdad, the city was a corpse. The dead were everywhere. In the streets, in the mosques, in the ruins of homes. Some estimates say 200,000 were killed. Others say 800,000. No one knows the true number. The air stank of rot and smoke. Dogs and birds fed on human remains. The once great capital of civilization became a silent wasteland. Baghdad would never recover. The Islamic Golden Age died that winter. Science collapsed, culture burned, progress was buried beneath ash and bones, and the world lost something it would never get back. Because when knowledge dies, humanity goes blind. And if this forgotten tragedy shook you, if it made you realize how fragile civilization truly is, take a moment to like this video. Subscribe to Stories Buried in Time for more forgotten history, dark legends, and lost empires. And share this story, so the world never forgets what was destroyed in 1258.